Hi there, welcome back to the Rare Book Views channel, where I hope that we're going to take a look at some rare and special books and editions and scarce things, and also get to look at some books that are just uncommonly good. Today I'm going to tell you about a rare adventure for books. I went to a recording of the Antiques Roadshow and it was so much fun. And I'm going to tell you how I got tickets, and then I'll tell you about how much fun it was and what happened. I am so lucky to have gotten tickets this year. I actually won tickets a couple years ago, and because of the pandemic, they actually canceled the events. So last year they did a slightly different approach, which meant very few people were actually allowed into the recording, and now we're back to sort of old school recording style. So the way it worked this year, and I think this is historically how they've done it, you can't really buy tickets. I think some local stations maybe do promotions sometimes for fundraising where you maybe could get a ticket by buying one, but generally that is not how it's done. You can sign up for their email and they will announce when they're doing a online sweepstakes, so you can enter over email and say you're interested in getting tickets. In that method, you get to pick when they do the different selections for tickets, they announce where the events are going to be that year, and I think there's about 6 a year, and when. So you can say, I want to go to this one particular event and it's on whatever day. When you enter an email, I thought this was interesting, you get to pick which time you would prefer. And I tried this a couple times and I did not do it. I think that there are a lot of people who are familiar with that method, so they get a lot of entries into the email sweepstakes. The second way, and this is how I won my tickets, the second way you can do it is on social media. So on Twitter and Instagram, follow their accounts. And then I did this on Instagram. They'll announce on a post, this is the online sweepstakes. Here's the different events. They have like an icon for the different venues, the different locations. And they'll say post in the comments, and this is a direction following experiment, post in the comments which location you would like tickets for, and tag a friend, I think, and like the post. It's a bunch of steps, and I wonder if Antiques Roadshow fans are social media savvy enough to understand what all those things mean. But you will see in the comments where people are saying that they want tickets or they want to enter, basically, there will be a lot of replies. Okay, but you need to say which city. So make sure you read it and understand. You need to comment which place that you want to attend. They start that a couple months, I think, before the first event. So I entered that way and I won tickets again, which is how I got them a couple years ago. But this year I actually got to go. They do only have, think if there's only half a dozen events, they're all over the country, which means it might not really be, this one was not in driving distance. We went to Nashville, which meant a short flight for us. My husband was very willing to go with me. He's not a book person or really an Antiques Roadshow guy, so it was very sweet of him to say that he would absolutely go with me. The filmings, I think all of them are on Tuesday, so I think that is apparent. It gives them time to get into the city and bring their huge production crew and all of the experts. So we had a great time. We went for sort of a weekend, not the weekend. We flew in on Sunday, had a really nice evening, stayed in a cool Airbnb, walking distance, ate some great food. Nashville has great food. And then we did some sightseeing on Monday, had some downtime, great relaxing, and then Tuesday went to the event. So at this event, it was at sort of historic gardens, and it seems like they've switched. I don't know if this is a pandemic thing or if they're just evolving. I've noticed the UK Antiques Roadshow, that's how ridiculous I am. I watch the UK Roadshow as well. They have really good books. Their events tend to be in historic landmarks, and they have all of the appraisers doing the appraising and people standing like outside. It seems like in the US we used to do this in convention centers. So now the new events are just like that. So in Nashville we were at a garden. The parking was really small, so they actually had us park at a local church and then brought us by shuttle over to the garden, and it was so easy and organized. I loved it. They did warn us many times in email that we would be required to show our COVID vaccination evidence, and they actually had people at the parking lot doing rapid testing for people who I think had forgotten, because they really were requiring it. So they checked everyone's vaccine status before we got on the shuttle, and then we took the shuttle, and then they had emailed us our tickets, which was mostly a QR code, and they scanned that, they gave us wristbands, and then you kind of get funneled to the next step, and they had a triage table where they asked you what kind of antiques, hopefully antiques, that you had brought. I brought 4 books because between my husband and I, we had to bring 2 items and up to 4, which I think is a hilariously small band of options. You must bring 1 item each. You can bring up to 2. So we brought 4 books. Partly my logic was we would only have to wait in 1 line to see 1 appraiser. And they told us to be prepared to stand in line for 2 hours, which seemed long. It was warm that day, so we kind of lucked out. It was not nearly that much time in line. It was very easy. My thinking was, I'm gonna fly on a plane, so I don't know if I want to take my most expensive books. So I was trying to think what would be most interesting. And about a year ago, I found this copy, advanced reader's copy of one of the Harry Potter books. And I know this is pretty rare because compared to the regular Harry Potter books, they only made a few thousand of these. And I thought, well, this is the 3rd one. I have other copies of the 3rd one. I'll take my collection of Prisoner of Azkaban. And then I took 1 of the book. So I brought 3 copies of this, and when we got up to the table, they give you at the triage, this is pretty cool, they give you this form where they stamp where you should be standing in line, because the next person you talk to looks at this and then points you and takes you by the hand and makes sure you get to the right place. So my first book, the appraiser said, so the Harry Potter books, if it's not the first one, it's kind of not that valuable. And it was really funny because he gave me the values. So this one he said he thought would be about $100 or so. I paid $3. My first edition US Harry Potter, he said $100, maybe $150. And my UK second printing, he said $25. And he was not impressed with my books. So these all cost me about $2. So I'm actually really excited. $250, $300 maybe for $6. That sounds great to me. But he was underwhelmed. I also took for our 4th book, I took The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. I picked this because I knew my husband would be interested in it. It's a very cool book, and it's a really nice copy. This is not a first edition. It's not even that early, really. It's 1880s. I can't remember off the top of my head when The Sleepy Hollow came out, but the appraiser really liked this and said, oh, this is a really nice binding. And I don't really collect bindings. I got this as an auction, again, for just a few dollars. And I really I enjoy some macabre type books. And The Legend of Sleepy Hollow is so great. It's so much fun to read this at Halloween. And this is a great copy to read at Halloween. It just feels so good. But I don't collect bindings. And this was really interesting to me. He said that for leather bindings like this, the value is not in this type of story. It's not in the illustrations, which are really nice in this book. It's just the leather binding. And he said, so this has a little wear here, there's a little wear on the spine. And he said, in general, if you have a chip or anything missing, it's worth maybe nothing. But he said this, maybe $200, $100, $200. So all of my books were in that range. And I thought that was great, but he was basically shrugged his shoulders at me. But it was wonderful. I had so much fun. The people watching was amazing. I got to see some of the appraisers that I've seen on TV many times, including the book appraiser. He was great. There were some of the people that I've just been watching for years and years, and we did sit down a little bit. We brought camp stools, which I highly recommend. This was my husband's idea, little folding stools so that we could just hang out for a little bit. There was someone wandering around saying, okay, are you finished? Are you leaving? Because it was starting to get pretty crowded. And then the only line that we were really in for longer than a couple minutes was waiting to get back on the shuttle. There was some logistics snafu. So we got to just sit down on our little stools and watch people walk by. It was wonderful. It was so great. I didn't see any other really significant books while I was in line, but I did get to see the appraisers, and the weather was also pretty good. It was a little warm, but it was wonderful. It was a great experience. I highly recommend it. If you are a book fan or an antique fan or just an Antiques Roadshow fan, definitely try to go. So I will put links in the notes to where you can get on their email list, and maybe I'll give you their accounts for Instagram, which is how I did it. I think there's also this there's some kind of contest to get tickets where it's called Knock Our Socks Off. So you can send them an email and pictures of a specific item that you think has a great story maybe, or will really charm them, and they'll pick some of those to actually be recorded for the show. So those three methods of getting tickets, and then I think some in local stations might get a few to give out, like I said, for fundraising. So I'll put the links to the ones that I tried. Let me know if you are also an Antiques Roadshow fan, and if you have ever tried to get tickets, and if you've attended. Oh, so great. Okay, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate everybody who's encouraged me with this kind of weird hobby, and I thank you for stopping by. Talk to you later. Happy reading.